Oh
right? No
no. It's
mentira.
gonna be on now. I feel
Oh gosh. Are you kidding me? This is how I'm going to start the show. This is what I'm going to show at the very beginning, right here, this part, and probably repeat it with slow mo. Make sure everyone, and then say, "Did you catch that? Let's play that again." Hello, betters. Welcome. I have a wonderful episode for y'all today. Cristina Gomez. Yes, the famous Cristina Gomez. I've been watching her since I got into UFOs, right? So she has decided to come on the show. I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't know. But she decided to come on. We're going to chat today. This is going to be a lot of fun. So I thought, you know what? Let me do an intro that I normally don't do for these interviews, and we'll kind of do it here, right? So, again, great conversation coming up with Cristina Gomez. Links in the description to check out her channel. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe, get on board. There's a lot of great content creators out there, so you may or may not have heard of her already. If you're new to the channel and you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button. That really, really helps out. All right. And of course, hit that like button. That helps out even more. And of course, comment down below of what you think of our conversations, different topics we brought up. I'm saying it ahead of time, so I don't know. Probably something cool. I probably said something very profound, very deep. You're going to want to write it down. So let me know what that was, what I said that was so cool. All right, I'm going to bring Cristina in right now, and let's just get this going, y'all. Welcome, Cristina. How we doing?
Hi, Patrick. Some people have some great one-liners, and it's so important to have a notepad and just write them down. We got to call them Patrickisms or something like
Yeah.
that. Just have a whole of them.
I like where you at. Finish, please. No, I'm kidding. Yes, I like where this is headed. Patrick isms. My wife would have a different description, but I like that for sure. Christina, how you doing today?
Oh
How's
my
your week
gosh.
going? It's Friday.
Is it? Is it? Jeez, these days just blur. I swear. But everything is going really well. I'm excited to have this conversation with you because we are very like-minded in so many respects. And when it comes to the UFO topic, there is just so much to dive into. And you can look at so many different angles when it comes to UFOs, the historical aspect, looking at other researchers, looking at the spiritual aspect, and the witness accounts. I mean, the list goes on and on. And there's a little place for everyone to get their interest in the topic.
Yeah, well said. I agree with all of that. Wow, this is going to be boring if everything you say I'm like is amazing, and I'm just like have nothing to
What if
add.
it's
So
profound, Patrick? Are you
yeah.
going to write it down?
Are they writing yours down? This is not what I meant, y'all. I meant for y'all to write my stuff down. Okay. Not Christina's. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's so much to dive in. I get the question all the time. Oh, Patrick, how do you do daily video? Like that's just, there's a lot to cover. I promise you. I don't even have time with daily videos to cover it all. I'm constantly getting messages. Have you seen this? Have you checked this out? Have you looked at the propellantless propulsion that's this going to take us no, I haven't seen all that. There's like you said, you can go back in time, present, even speculate about the future. There's theory, there's speculation, like you said, witnesses. There is so much to cover, but in a way that's good, right? I think that's a good thing. A well that is so deep, we can't get to the bottom of it. Yeah, which begs the question, how do people get bored in this topic? How do you think that happens? Right? You hear about this burnout and burn. Do you think it has anything to do with the content and maybe more the person? I don't know.
That's actually a really great question because obviously I'm going to say it differs from person to person and it's all about perspective. But when we're
Sure.
looking at this burnout aspect where people have been mentioning it in the last few weeks, it's referring to government transparency and government disclosure. It's very specific to that. And I can bet my boots here that disclosure is not going to be coming from the government. It's going to be coming from the people or maybe some mass sighting or something in between. But the government at this point in time, they're not going to give us any sufficient information. Now, when we begin to look at this topic from all of the other points that we just mentioned a few moments ago, then it's this never ending well, like you said, this vast ocean. And from that point of view, there shouldn't be a burnout. But it's the same thing as the saying of you cannot fill a glass if it's already full. And so some people have this mentality of, I know everything, I don't need any more information. Then, yeah, they're going to get that burnout. But if you have the cup is half empty, then you're able to keep dripping that information into your well of a mind. And you're always hungry for new information and that curiosity. And I think sometimes a passion can really help you continue your journey of research and investigations as well. Don't you agree with that, Patrick?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to agree again. Yes, I
Unfortunately,
I do.
what do
I don't
you
know.
mean?
I just mean like this is you're saying too many right things right now, Christina. You're scaring me. You're on point too much here. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I completely agree. That's a great way to put it. And like everything in this community, I mean, honestly, life is a better way. It's nuanced. Right. It's nuanced. It is about perspective, where you're at, how full is your glass, as you put it. And that's a great analogy, because a lot of people, I'm sure you get these comments too, right? Oh, nothing new. Moving on. Okay. What does that mean? I don't know. New to who? New to you? New to what are we talking about? New, right? So yeah, I think that makes total sense. And you're probably right about what more people generally are talking about when they say burnout is people's frustrations with the expectations they've set for themselves of what the government is going to get them, right? But that's where disappointment comes from, your own expectations. What you've set, what is the bar? What are you looking for the government? You've set holes, you want them filled by the government. If they don't get filled, you're frustrated. I get it, right? Yeah, Christina, write this down, girl. This is
I'm
good
writing it
stuff.
down. This is good
This
stuff.
is this is going on the map right behind you. We're gonna pin it. Yeah, but yeah, I totally agree. And that's what these conversations are good for. You can dive into the nuance of it, and that's why it is important to hear from people specifically, about where they're at with it. And yeah, it's kind of everyone's journey. That's kind of my thing. I say on Vetted a lot, right? It's everyone's journey. We're all on different rungs on the ladder, right? And how far we're up, how we looking, how many people we're looking down on or up or whatever, right? And some people think, well, I already got to the top. Like you said, I'm already there. That's impossible to me, but whatever, teach their own. So yeah, I hear you. What made you, and maybe this is, a dumb question, or maybe a lot of people that know you already know this, but just for those who aren't familiar with you and this part of your journey, like what got you so passionate about this topic, or was it passion, or what was it?
Definitely The Twilight Zone. Best TV show of all time, nothing can compare to it. All right, that's
Oh,
really
great
what got me
answer.
started. Yeah,
Great
yeah.
answer.
But
Love that.
also, my parents. So let me explain this. My parents always told me anything is possible. Anything. You know what? If you believe in unicorns, all right, cool. Fairies, sure, why not? And I'm joking here a little bit, but what I'm
Sure.
getting at is our parents as children are our foundation to understand things, to like and dislike things. Like, for instance, maybe your mom absolutely loves raspberries. She's going to pass that on to you and you're going to love raspberries, right? Be like, who doesn't love raspberries? My mom loves them, right? And that's an example. But what we're saying here is that my I've been very lucky to have the parents that I do to
Yeah.
provide this passion for me to say and to think that anything is possible and to ask as many questions as possible. Keep that curiosity because people that have been to school, just in general, mainly public school, it's this is the answer. Don't ask any questions. And then you remember that in your teen years and your adult years, you have this fear of asking questions, maybe due to rejection or looking stupid. And so when you have that foundation of it is okay to ask questions, and the worst thing that can happen is that you look dumb, but at least you have the answer that you need to continue your path, your job, your whatever it might be. And so that's really what got me started in a more long winded answer.
I love that. I love that. Just your curiosity, your openness, to this. So you mix that with, clearly you had a personal curiosity for this topic, right? In general, yes, okay, you're open, right? And then Twilight Zone. Have you had your own? I mean, I get asked this a lot. I'm sure you do too, right? Have you had a personal experience, UFO or whatever experience? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. I've had a few. I've had close people that have also had encounters. What's really crazy is after like my whole life of living, I spoke to my mom, I want to say like a few months ago, and she told me her UFO sighting that I never knew she had. It
No
was
way.
insane. It was back in
Wow.
the 1980s in Caracas, which is the capital of Venezuela. And what happened was her mom was on the roof drying clothes and she calls her kids over. She's like, guys, I'm seeing this UFO in the sky. And I know this is
Oh
insane.
shit.
And so my
Wow.
mom is young, maybe like 8 or 9 years old, and she's running up the stairs up to the roof with her brother. And they see several triangular UFOs in a triangle shape, like a delta shape.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it
Wow.
just flew over the capital, like one of the most populated cities in Venezuela. It just flew over, and turns out it was in the newspapers. But the explanation, even in the 80s, was it was just a military operation. That's all it was. Nothing to see here. But for my mom and her family at that time, said no, we saw something really obscene.
Wow.
And when I heard this case for the first time ever, I thought to myself, Ma, why didn't you tell me this sooner? Like, what's going on? She says, mi amor, you never asked. And I said, valid. That that's
Wow.
valid, but I'm disappointed in you, Mom.
Oh wow. That's crazy, right? First of
Yeah,
all, what a mom thing to say that. You never asked me. You never asked me.
I know.
Nunca,
I
nunca
know.
me preguntaste, niña. And you're like, what? I didn't know I need to be specific, mom. Are there any ghost stories? Have you been on a UFO personally? Right? Maybe you
I
got to
had
get
to ask
specific
those
with
right
these,
after, and the
right? Yeah.
answer was yes. And the answer was yes. And I was like, Mom, stop. Not the being on a craft part, but having
Yeah.
a paranormal encounter a few
Sure. Oh, my
months
mom too.
ago.
Oh,
And
really?
I was like, Mama, I am your child. Why aren't you telling me these things? And she's like, Mi amor, you never asked. And I'm like,
You never asked. Wow.
I
That's
know.
crazy.
I know.
Wow. Paranormal stuff too. Yeah. My mom has as well. My mom is Mexican, very Catholic. She prays a lot. I've got, the bazillion crosses in my mom's house. And she definitely has experiences, a lot, and has her whole life. A lot of my family in Mexico they speak about it a lot. Nothing UFO related, but definitely paranormal. When it comes to paranormal, a lot. And a lot of honestly very intriguing, fascinating stories.
Like
If
La
I'm being
Llorona.
real.
Have they ever had an
No,
encounter with that?
no, nothing like that. It's more personal stuff like, no, I had a dream about your uncle and he said this and then that happened 3 weeks later. My mom's has a lot of what she might call premonitions, what she might think like, I dreamt about this and then this happened and then they called me, or whatever it is. The story is, and I find that stuff fascinating. The stuff with the mind, consciousness, um, the things we don't know the limits to. I do find that stuff fascinating. So when I hear stories like that, again, from rational people, right? Like your mom is just a rational, hardworking person, and you hear stories like that. Same with my mom. It's like you do take pause, right? Those are the moments in this topic. If we were to expand it a little bit outside of UFOs, right, and just say sort of the strange and mysterious, those are the kind of things that pull me in. They you know what I mean? They really pull me in because there are moments where I'm just like, this is all BS, man. I don't know what's going on. This is crap. And then yeah, things like that. These personal stories of real people with no real agenda. I find them fascinating. I do,
It
and
it
I
definitely
love hearing
hits
your story.
different.
Yeah, it
It
hits different.
definitely hits different when it's a
It
family
does.
member, when it's someone
Oh
that you love and
yeah,
trust, right?
yeah,
Compared
yeah,
to something that you might read in a book or that you hear online. It just hits you in the face different.
yeah.
And when we have close people to us that have encounters, it does add this level of credibility. Now, could they be lying? Yeah, they could be, but what would be the purpose behind it? I had another
Yeah.
friend, gosh, when I was super young, and she told me that for years she would see a like old hag, like an old woman in the corner of her room
Oh my.
every single night. And
Oh,
so when it comes to anyways, it inspired me so much. That was actually one of the very first shows and research topics that I did on my channel because of her
was
story.
about
And I
her
was
story,
about
like your
her
friend. Got it.
encounter.
Got it.
Yeah,
Got
about
it.
my friend, who encountered what I would classify as a shadow person. And it really began to check off because people that have consistent visitations with shadow people encounter a lot of psychological issues. So, for instance, she suffered at this time, and she was also Venezuelan. Let me just put that out there
Sure.
because she suffered with depression, anxiety, eating disorders. And when it comes to certain cultures, depression and anxiety are very touchy topics. It's not common like it is in the United States to be very easily accepted.
Yeah.
So for her, she grew up with those things and no one really took it to mind, to heart. And she had significant eating disorders and a lot of like body dysphoria as well. Well, it
Oh
turns out her
man.
mother, it was really sad. Her
Yeah.
her mother finally kind of like tuned into this and she said, "We need to get some help, but the doctors aren't going to help. Let's get some more spiritual kind of help." And so she ends up encountering this woman, and I never know the title of what to call her, but we'll just call her some kind of like spiritualist kind of deal.
Okay.
And that's like not that's like a terrible title, but let me continue on with this story because my friend ends up going to visit this woman to get a cleansing, and my friend couldn't even enter the house. She was like literally unable to enter it. There was no fence. The door was wide open, but she
Wow.
couldn't, as if she had a parasite on her that wasn't letting her into this more cleansed home. And
Sure.
so this woman had to do the ritual outside with singing bowls and sage and stuff. And as the story goes, according to her mother, who had told my mom, who had told me, so it's a few stories down,
Sure.
but as the story went, was that my friend started screaming and saying how much pain it was to be surrounded by this noise, by the om bowls, the singing bowls.
Wow.
And it was so painful, apparently, that she passed out. After the encounter, she woke up and she was sleeping on the couch. She's like, "What happened? Who are you? What am I doing here? What's going on?" And the woman ended up telling my friend, "You had this entity attached to you, and it was obviously so bad that you passed out." Ever since then, she hasn't had the same kind of encounter. But when it comes to this old hag shadow person, she had it for a good chunk of her youth, from a young age into her teen years. So that if we're looking at attachments or even the hitchhiker effect, the longer it attaches to you, the more it knows you, the more it knows your weaknesses, where to hide. And so when we hear stories like that, and this was a really good friend of mine, it
Yeah.
definitely, that's another case that just hit
Wow.
different, so much so that I had to do research after just to get a better grip, a better understanding of what she was going through. When I asked her about it, she said,
Yeah.
"Nope, that never happened. I don't know what you're talking about." She was in such denial because she has a scientific brain because her father is a doctor, a neurosurgeon, and so her mom is like really spiritual. Her dad is a total scientific mind.
Sure.
And
Sure.
she's leaning more on the dad side of like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about. This never happened." But I grew up with her. I know the stories. And so it's
Wow.
crazy to hear those kinds of encounters.
Especially since she's denying that it happened, right? That's crazy.
It
That's
is, but
like,
it's
wow.
a similar thing with people that have had UFO sightings and alleged alien abductions. There is this level of denial when we do not understand something. If it doesn't fit into our mental paradigm, we say,
Sure.
"No, I don't want to
Sure.
do anything with that." It's
Sure.
like
Yeah.
it's a traumatic experience.
Yeah, you suppress it, right? It gets suppressed
Yeah,
and yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Wow, that's fascinating. I mean, sounds like an exorcism of sorts,
Kind
right?
of.
Right? I mean, that's exactly what in my mind, I know I would imagine some people listening or hearing are going to think the same thing, which is fascinating. And there's so much history to that. and examples of, you know, those events actually happening is, you know, I know we think of a movie, The Exorcist, or other whatever
Right.
things they might show, but there are numerous stories that are quite scary, if I'm being right. Like that, what your friend experienced sounds terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I'm glad she got help. It sounds like she woke up on the couch inside that woman's home, which is a good sign, right? Before she couldn't go in. Now she was in the home. So that's a good sign. So whether or not she believes it to be true or it happened may not even matter at this point, as long as it sounds like she got the help she needed regardless, right? Which is
Right.
cool. You know what I mean? It's not like she's still struggling with this, but doesn't want to admit it. And that would be even more terrifying if I'm being on it, right? So yeah, dude, I mean, I hear stories like this. That's fascinating. That's what sort of is there any new story out right now that's intriguing you or fascinating you or that you just can't get out of your mind?
There's one story that I looked into, gosh, I want to say like a year and a half ago now, and it's always stuck with me as one of the most incredible cases, and that's the Colares, Brazil incident in 1977. Are you familiar with it?
Oh my God, I don't. And this is exciting.
Great.
Okay,
Great.
this is
Okay.
great. Yeah, okay, cool. I'm in. I'm
So
in.
it's one of my favorite cases right next to the Phoenix Lights. But this one,
I love the Phoenix Lights. Oh, that's the
it's so
first
good.
vetted deep dive I'm doing for June, where I'm involving the entire vetted community to do research for a month, gather it all, and I'm going to make a video at the end. And we're going to try to do that every month. And the Phoenix Lights is the first case we're going to address. So, right, isn't that exciting? So, yes, I'm with you. So, this is your number two. This is
This is
exciting.
like my number
Wow.
1.5. Like it
Wow.
shares the spot. Yeah, because it's
Holy cow.
really insane.
Okay. I can't wait to hear this. Awesome.
Okay. So it took place in this very small fishing town just right off the coast of Brazil. And what happened was Colares, it encountered a UFO flap, meaning that it was a UFO sighting that took place more than once, more than one day. It was actually 6 months long, 6 months long.
What?
And it was
What?
happening every single night between 6 and 8 or 9 p.m. And this is a very, again, a small fishing town, very Catholic. And what happened was every single night for 6 months, UFOs were practically harassing the people. Let me explain, because we don't hear cases like this that often. UFOs were being seen at night, and they would shoot this beam of light on the people, and it would create puncture wounds on the chest, on the thighs, near the thyroid area. So much so, it was so significant that the people ended up nicknaming these craft called chupa chupa, which just means sucker, because
Yeah.
they felt like the blood was being taken out of their body, a portion of it.
Oh my
Consistently, crafts were
God.
being seen. There were people being harassed. Two people died because of it. There were paralysis when when this light was beamed on them. It was so
Shit.
significant that the mayor of that small town called the capital, Brasilia, and said, send me all of your military, send me everything, all of your weapons. You got to protect my people. This is all documented information, all of
Wow.
it.
What year is this? You said 1978?
1977.
Oh,
1977.
77. Got it. Got it.
Right.
Wow.
So
Wow.
the military come in, they occupy this small town, but instead of bringing tanks and guns and all of these weapons, they brought paper, pens, telescopes, cameras. They were there to document it, and it ended up being called Operação Plato, or
Okay.
Operation Saucer, aka Operation Plate, run
Sure.
by the captain Urangue Lima. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because after they've been documenting this for a few months, they're writing all this down, they're interviewing witnesses, they're taking pictures, they're doing drawings. A lot of this information is public through FOIA that came out in the early 2000s. You can find it on the Black Vault as well. And so,
Wow.
years later, almost 20 years later, Captain Urangue Lima, the captain, the chief of the operation, comes forward and tells a story to a UFO magazine in Brazil 20 years later, right after he retired. And he tells the whole story to the world of what happened, of the things that his men experienced, that the fishermen experienced, and that he experienced. And according to his account, that is documented, there's an interview that you can find. If you can find it, it's there. And he mentions that one night when he was in that small town, he was ready to go to bed, and this small figure hugged him from behind and spoke to him in a more robotic Portuguese that says, "Don't worry, I'm not going to harm you." After this tiny little person is hugging this guy from behind, obviously, Captain Angelima is freaking out. He has a military background. He's ready to shoot this thing right in the head. And but he was paralyzed. He wasn't able to move from this. And then this entity leaves. But it was getting so intense for these people that they were sleeping all in the same house. They wouldn't walk alone at night. They were always together. But these beams of light would shoot through the roofs, through the walls, through the windows. Nobody was safe. Now, to my understanding, no one was abducted, but a lot of them did have puncture wounds. And as I had mentioned a little bit earlier, 2 had died. Let me explain that. And I cannot emphasize this enough. This is all documented information. So there was one doctor there that was staying in that town to help, just in general, not because of the situation, but she just happened to live there. And she was getting all of these people telling her their encounters of seeing craft in the sky, getting paralyzed, having these puncture wounds, and all these other kind of weird ailments in the body. She didn't believe them. She says, "What are you guys talking about? This is mass hallucination. I've studied this my whole life. Like, you don't know what you're talking about." Then one night she goes out and she encounters it for herself. She sees her own craft. She saw this beam of light, and it gets insane. The military come into her office and say, "You are going to tell everyone that this is mass hysteria. This is mass hallucination. And I want all of your documents. I want all of your paperwork." By that time, she said, "I already had my encounter. You're lying to everyone here." But if the military had come just a few months prior, she would have believed them. But at that point, after her own experience, she said, "No, this is the real deal." And then it turns out that these 2 older people that had this paralysis when this beam of light came over them, they were almost in this stage of rigor mortis. They weren't able to like loosen up their arms or anything. They were very quickly taken to the nearest hospital, and both of them passed away soon after. When the doctor had asked for the medical records from that hospital to get an understanding of what happened to those people, how did they pass away, she wasn't able to get them. They became classified.
Of course.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so when we're looking at all of that information, a 6-month flap, okay, thousands of witnesses. There's about, I want to say like 4,000 witness testimonies or so. Only half of those have been made public. Same with the pictures. No videos have been made public, but some of the photos, some of the drawings, and the witness testimony and that interview by Urange Lima, you can find all of that information that goes into more detail on this case. But what we're looking at here is something so profound that we just hardly ever hear, where these craft, these entities, whatever they might be, are actually harassing people. And so that's why in my book, it's just one of those more profound cases that I have encountered, and I just can't shake off the story.
Wow. So like a year and a half ago, you didn't know about it.
No.
You just found, I mean,
It's not
how
a
am I
popular
just
story.
hearing about that? Yeah, this is crazy.
Exactly.
How I haven't heard about this.
We all hear
Wow.
about Roswell.
I mean,
That's it.
for sure. Well, I just was on my friend Pavel's podcast, and he lives in Tijuana, and he's trying to do more English language interviews. Even though I would do one in Spanish with him, I need to tell him that. But he started telling me about this crash in northern Mexico that I'd never heard. It's like Mexico's Roswell. Like, I've never heard of this. This is crazy. Like, there's so much out there outside of America. That's what we talked about, like, to get into, like, and it blows my mind. I mean, what you're telling me blows my mind. That is far more crazy than the Phoenix Lights, right? This is 6-month window. Why is there a movie not about this, or a documentary? James Fox, why? This is the one we want to see, James. I mean, that's fascinating. The doctor, the who he was the head military guy. I forget who you said who
He
came
was
out
he
20
was
years
the
later.
chief of the Operación Plato
Got it.
Urante Lima. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I mean, that's so it sounds like the paralysis was temporary that people
It
got,
it
right?
was
Not
only when this
permanent.
light was beaming on them
Okay.
were they in
Okay.
this state of paralysis, and then they would receive these puncture wounds for the women in the chest area and then for the men in the jugular area.
Oh my
Um
God.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
was it uniform? Like, did it seem like all the craft sightings had were uniform in the sense that they were all seeing the same shape and size, or was there a lot of differing sightings?
differing
Really?
shapes,
Oh
differing
God.
colors, but the puncture wounds were the same. It was triangular. So you had like one dot on top, two on the bottom,
Two on the
and they were
bottom.
just getting it all kind of in this
Oof.
area. And but yes, they were seeing different craft, which is
Wow.
interesting, but it we could say it here on planet Earth, we have different vehicles for different
Oh
operations.
yeah.
Trucks, cars, trains, planes,
Sure.
right? The list goes on and on,
Sure.
but it can still be run by the same entity. Now, people are going to say, oh, could it have been a military operation? The possibility is a yes. Yes, it's possible. But what we're
I
looking at
guess.
here is that it's this beam of light was able to penetrate between into solid structures,
Sure.
and they felt like these witnesses felt like their blood was being taken from them after receiving these puncture wounds from a beam of light. There weren't any needles, there weren't any kind of
Yeah.
anything like that, as the witnesses have mentioned in their testimonies. It was just merely a beam of light. I don't think we had that technology in 1977, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But either way, why would you want to hurt your own people?
Yeah, absolutely. For that long, I don't think military exercises run for 6 months in the same spot like that every day, beaming light down on people. Right? I mean, hurting them, like you said. Why would you hurt your own people like that? Yeah, I mean that is. I mean that's fascinating. Yeah, like I don't even know what to say to that. Right? It's like holy cow.
I know.
Just too many people. Too many people to just dismiss it. Be like, yeah. I'm sorry. You got a whole town saying, "Hey, you know what I mean? We can't fish, y'all.
No.
That's why there's no snapper at the market. Jose got snapped, and we got to take care of him. Gosh, I mean, honestly, that's terrifying when I hear that.
And to answer your point about James Fox, I actually had this conversation with him because I asked him the same question. And I'm like, James,
Oh
how are you
wow,
not covering this
yeah,
documentary, this story to make it into a documentary? Because he was in Brazil multiple times for I don't know how many years, but I know for a significant amount of
for a
years
long
going back and forth
time.
to
Yeah,
Brazil to get the case for
yeah.
the phenomenon. And no,
For Virginia,
moment of
well,
contact.
yeah, moment of
Yeah,
contact. Yeah.
that's the documentary. And I asked him, and I'm like, did you hear about this when you were in Brazil? And he says, yes, of course I did. When I went to talk to people about it, they did not want to speak about it. He could not get people to talk about
Wow.
the encounter.
Wow. Oh man. Woo.
No.
Wow. I gotta admit, this is becoming super fascinating to me. This case that I am absolutely gonna be diving into. And I'm sure a lot of people listening were that's what they've been writing down this whole time when you were telling that story. Which by the way, you're a great storyteller. I was like,
Oh,
forgot
thank
I was on the podcast with you for a moment. Like I was just listening to does that make sense? I was just like, oh shit, Patrick. Wait, hang on, you're here too, dude. Don't forget. You're here too, which is a good sign of a good podcast. I've done a lot of interviews. That's always a good sign when you get lost in what the person's saying and you forget that you're there. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you're a really good
Wonderful.
storyteller.
That means a lot.
Wow, that's just I mean, I don't know what else. Again, I don't know what else to say. That is a phenomenal story. Do you find yourself more fascinated with these sort of cold cases than you do maybe with what's currently happening?
That's a great question. So, looking at these older cases, we are usually aware that there has been a lot of more research. I don't want to say a lot of research, but more
Sure.
research on them that seem to be a little bit more authentic because during those times there wasn't CGI, there wasn't Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
When we're looking
Good
at more
point.
modern cases with the videos and footage that we have, it gets a little bit more difficult because people, yeah, can very easily fake them. And there's less research done on them. But
Yeah.
also, what I think is insane is that with the new technology that we have, we still have really bad footage of videos and photos of UFOs. And but when we look, because they're digital,
Yeah.
when we look at
Yeah.
film cameras and them capturing UFOs, we're able to see a better shape. We're able to see better details. And so for myself, I actually did a show on this. I want to say it was yesterday about equipment. I said, dude, bring a film camera. Okay. It will benefit you.
Wow.
Yes, digital is great. It's speedy, but get some film. Because
Wow.
from what we've seen in the past with some pretty good photos, compared to today, where we just get a white blob and that's it, and you're good to
Yeah.
go, and that's a UFO. Could be a bug. No, no, it's definitely a UFO. And so it's a little frustrating. It's a little flustering as well.
Sure.
And so looking at more modern cases, yes, they're still great, but it's not the same. I don't think, at least not yet.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. I
What about
guess.
you?
No. I mean, that's kind of a good point. I mean, I guess I have two personal, or I have two lanes. I have my personal lane. So that's me. That's the Patrick lane. Then I've got the vetted lane. It's a little different because I also want to give people what they want to see, right? It's not just about me. I say that a lot on my show. Like the vetted has definitely grown way past me. I'm nothing. It's the community that's been built of all these amazing people. And I want to make sure I'm submissive to a point, in that sense that I want to serve, right? Not submissive in a derogatory term, but in a way that I just want to serve the audience, right? So it just depends. Personally, I like cold cases and the older stuff better, but from the vetted standpoint, I do cover a lot more current stuff for sure. There's no doubt. It's probably 85%. But I do want to cover more some of these older stories, these older, like you said, there just is more research. The photos are better. Film, it's just the way it captures light, right? The digital and film, it just has a lot to do with it. Film is going to get it no matter what. You can redevelop it. You can blow it up a lot bigger, unless you're just using some massive, crazy digital chip. But even then, stuff can get whitewashed out, and like you said, with motion blur and all this stuff that gets added, and so yeah, I'm with you. But I kind of have to do both, but in my personal time, yeah, I'm watching the older stuff. I want to see the older stories. I'm fascinated by it. There's something about like a dimly lit room and some older guy with glasses telling a story about, well, when I was a kid, just like, okay, I'm in. This is exciting. That's what I want to see. I think every UFO interview should be done like that. It just makes it all the more exciting. So yeah, I
I'm
don't
with
know.
you on that one.
Right. Yeah. But it's like there's also all this. Let's put aside government disclosure as being sort of current, right? There are also um, public cases coming out and public
Right.
events and things that come out, and um, so those are kind of intriguing, right? Like this Las Vegas one, there was the LaGuardia. I don't know. It's hard to kind of, I don't know. I mean, let's take for instance that LaGuardia sighting. I don't know if you heard about it at the airport,
Yeah,
right?
of
With this
course.
woman,
Of
and
course.
then you tell your story from Brazil in 1977 for over 6 months. It's like, okay, what are we talking about here? They're just not even close. Like we should be focused on this Brazilian sighting over here. And yes, this is an exciting video, but what can we do with it past looking at it going, that's cool. Then what? Then, and you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Where do you think people should invest their time with this? Or do you ever give advice like that to people? Does that make sense? Like, I don't know, read
I,
books, do this, look into that. I don't know. Focus here. I don't know. What do you think?
It's a toughie just because my interest will not be your interest.
Sure.
And so that's why it's important to cover just a vast array of topics like you do, like I do, giving modern, giving ancient, giving old, all of these
Yeah.
different things. When I say old, I mean just like a few years back.
Yeah.
But when you provide everything that you can with this level of unbias, right? It helps people decide what they want to do with their free time on their own because we can only do so much. And people are always going to have expectations and we're not always going to meet them. So, at the very least, like you said, we can just serve, provide what we can, and then let people continue onward with the work because, yes, we can do as much as we can, but it might not be always enough.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's
Yeah.
crucial. It's crucial to cover anything and everything, but hopefully things that at first capture your interest because it's going to show. If you're interested in it, then everyone else will be as well. And then from there, it's in their hands.
Yeah. No, that's well said. How long have you been doing your show?
I started in 2020, and actually, the channel
Oh,
was originally looking at modern UFO sightings, enhancing it, adding filters, slowing it down, posting it back online to allow people to make their own minds on what they think it was.
yeah.
And then I started getting so hungry for information that I said I need to start talking to people because in all reality, I did not want to put my face online. I didn't
Sure.
want to do it. I
I
wanted to
get it.
be behind the scenes and just left alone, right? I want to
Yeah.
live under a rock. Have since I
Yeah.
was like 12. But things change, okay?
Things change.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, things change. And so I ended up doing interviews with people that I thought were knowledgeable in the topic and that ended up being captured by the radio station KUNXDB. And then from there, I was able to kind of get other shows like Mysteries with a History with Jimmy Church of Faded Black Radio. And then that evolved into another show, which is now Strangest News of the Week, covering, well, that just all the strange news.
Yeah.
And then there's another show called Tales of the Strange and Unexplained, going into detail on specific cases like Colares, Brazil, which is I
Yeah.
I love talking about it. It's just so awesome.
It's
But
awesome. No. Yeah.
what I've noticed is that one thing evolves into another and now it's taken over my entire life. Like every aspect of my day, I'm doing something with the strange and mysterious. And on top of that, I have two jobs. I just graduated
Oh, wow.
university like back in December. So
Oh, wow. Congrats,
it's been
by the way.
intense. Thank you. Thank you. It's been intense, but it's been worth it. It's been worth
Sure.
every moment of my time. And I wouldn't change it for the world just knowing more about this topic. Because just like you, Patrick, it enthralls you. It takes you with everything that it has. And so I'm gonna throw this back at you. What has been your favorite case of all time? Have it be modern, have it be from who knows when? What makes you keep coming for more?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't say there's a two-part answer there. So I'll answer what my favorite case is here in a second. But generally speaking, what keeps me coming back to this is just my curiosity. There are all these holes that aren't filled. So I'll keep coming back till those are filled, which means forever because we'll never fill them, right? We won't never know everything. And I love that. I love going where the unknown is, what we don't understand all the way. Um, how our brains work, consciousness, why we sleep, why are we here, right? All the questions that we all want to know. I'm fascinated by that, and I always will be. So it always keeps me coming back, to be honest with you. Now, my favorite case. Wow. I I don't know. That's a great question, and I just don't have an answer for that. Because I don't know if there's one case in particular that I'm just like obsessed with, that I know every detail and I get in. It's more what I get kind of obsessed with is connections I see. with cases, if that makes sense, right?
Yes.
Dots that connect, that intrigues me more than a particular case. The fact that millions of people claim to have had a close encounter beyond seeing it, like I've interacted with a being, an entity, like the you know, the number is like so mind-boggling. That's what I think about a lot. It's just how many people, and how many people have seen something. They don't talk about it because they weren't asked, like your mom said, right? Well, nobody asked me. Right. I mean, how many people are out there just with that answer, or just I'm afraid to talk about, right? Like, I think we know a smidgen of what's really happened and what people are afraid to talk about. Um, so that's rather than just a particular case, that's what intrigues me most, is just how many people have experienced this globally, right? From different cultures, different backgrounds, different class systems, different races, religions, genders, right? It just covers everything, and all these different people. I mean, something's going on, right? And what is that thing? But that's what intrigues me the most. Now, I do love hearing cases like we tell, and then I get into it, but then I will move on from it. Okay, you know what I mean? Oh, great, saw this, let's say Moment of Contact, right? James Fox's thing. I was really into that when it first came out, and that story and everything. But then I hear all the stuff. Okay, I sort of move on to something else. Because there's only so far you can go with the case, for me anyway, right? Once you hear testimony, information, now what do I do with that information? What am I supposed to do with it? But it is fascinating. All these different cases for sure. There's just so many to get lost in, you know, right? Is there any case out there right now for you that is sort of like on the back burner? You've pinned it, but you're ready to get into it, that you haven't.
No. As soon as I see it, I'm like, all right, I
You're
gotta do
in.
it
You're
now.
in.
Because if I don't do it now, I'll never do
Yeah,
it.
that's interesting. That's interesting. Maybe that's my problem. As I get older, Christine, I don't know how old you are. You see, you're probably in your 20s, I would imagine, somewhere in there. I'm in my 40s. Okay, it's I'm living a different life. It's like when I was young and hungry, I go, oh my God, that's me. I honestly think to myself, how would I treat this 20 years ago for myself? Like, I would probably be approaching this differently, if I'm being honest. I would. You have a ton of passion. You're way above. You're thinking at a maturity level way past your age for sure. I was not like that at your age. I was a crazy, if I'm being, I was just all over the place. I couldn't concentrate on anything for too long. But you've accomplished a lot. You're really focused on this. You have a lot of passion, and everyone can see that, which is why I think you've done so well in this too. You care, and you're great at presenting that information that you care about. I know you said you're enveloped in this, it's your whole life at this point. Is that where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do it like, continuing on YouTube? Do you have some other huge goal in mind? You want to have your own show on History Channel? You want to start making documentaries? I don't know. Or you just don't even think about that?
If I were to be honest with you, it's a two-headed coin. In many respects, I don't think that far ahead. I just
Yeah.
can't. I gotta be in the moment and just go for it
Yeah.
and see where it takes
Sure.
me. But of
Sure.
course, I do have plans that I am planning for. Like, for instance, I do want to create my own filming production and
Love
just
it.
film my own stuff because I am planning, gosh, for the last since my senior year in high school, to get an RV, travel the US, hitting all the UFO and paranormal hotspots, documenting it, and taking people on the journey with me. That's what I want to do. Now, life happens and it's been going slower than I expected. But yes, I do have a few things in mind. But for the most part, it's just I want to keep doing this, keep doing it until I think I need to stop, which I
Yeah.
don't think will be anytime soon.
I don't see that happening. Right. It's like the deeper you get into this, the harder it is to get out because it is so
It's like
fascinating.
quicksand. I
Yeah,
know.
it is. It's a quicksand that just keeps pulling you further in, um, which is okay. It's like a good quicksand, right? Which is cool. I actually am. Well, yeah, this will be the first time I mention it. I am for vetted this summer. Okay, I'm going to announce it right here with you. I am jumping in an RV with a couple of buddies, and we are going to Roswell for a weekend. Sort of, I want to do that too, right? I want to test it out. Like, let's see what this is like. Let's see what we get into. Now, both of my friends are not into this subject, but are, if you know what I mean. Like
They
they're not in it
will
like
be.
we are. They're not in it like we are, but on a surface level, yeah, they love the shit, right? Like this is great, this is cool. Let's go to Roswell. I want to go. This will be. I'll learn more, about this. One of them is my cousin who has had sightings. Right, he has had personal experiences. I have not. Um, but yeah, so I'm with you. I want to go to these places in person. Um, you know, I guess if I were to give one case, it is Roswell. I know it's kind of could be considered cliche, but it's like you first into the UFO topic, your first introduction into it could be Roswell for a lot of people. Oh, Roswell. Okay, everyone knows Roswell. It's a worldwide thing, Roswell. And then you get into the topic more. Well, Roswell's kind of, that's pop, that's a pop UFO one. I'm into the more, independent bands, independent cases. So let
That's
me
good.
check these out, right? Let me get into these smaller ones nobody knows about. Cool. But then you're into it more, you start to realize, well, Roswell keeps coming up. Roswell keeps coming up and coming up and coming up and coming up, and some sort of connection to it. It's got a web so deep, right? Connected to it in so many ways. So you sort of come back around to it. It's like, oh, the Stones they're touring again. Let's go see them. It's been 30 years, right? It's that's what Roswell is. It's the Stones on tour again, the Rolling Stones. Um, and in a way, that's what makes Roswell could be the most fascinating. Is just kind of for that reason. So in a way, I want to amend my answer before that. It may be Roswell if I had to pick a case because it is. It's just so fascinating. So we'll see what happens. Is Patrick going to blow open the case of Roswell this summer on a trip on an RV? Definitely not. But I am going to have a blast and document it. So I get your dream of wanting to go, dude. Your audience would love that, and the new audience you would build doing that. Yeah, you seem like the perfect person to do that too. Who would take it seriously. That's all people want, right, from us, I think, as creators. Just take it seriously. I can invest my time in you. You're going to be around, right? I think that's a big thing I say to other creators. Let people know that you're going to be around, that they can invest time in you, right? If I start watching you and you become a part of my routine and then you're gone next week, well, why did I do that? Why did I invest my time in you? That's something I try to bring up a lot. I'm not going anywhere. I just got into this. I mean, I'm not even a year into doing vetted. So, I definitely want people to know they can invest their time and effort into me. One, I take it seriously, which is, I can tell from you as well, which is great, right? Don't you think that's, I think that's important. What do you think?
Has to be. It has to be. I mean, if everything's a joke, people are gonna think the topic is a joke. It's good to have fun. It's good to
Yeah,
tell jokes,
sure.
but there has to be this level of respect and seriousness and wanting to know the truth because facts, number one, don't care about your feelings. And the truth
Yeah,
will come up when opinion is gone. And when we look at those things,
I'm
we
writing
look
that
at
down.
those
That's a
things.
good
Yeah,
one.
yeah, do it. Do it. Yeah.
That's a good one.
When we do those things, people realize that opinions, they muddy the water. They dirty the situation. But when you just provide the information to the people, it makes it worth their time because they're able to make their own minds and use their brains to ask questions. When everything's served to you in a silver spoon, it gets a little boring sometimes. It
Yeah,
does. Some
yeah.
people like it, but your average Joe, I don't know. I don't think they really go for it anymore. They want to be mentally stimulated in some way. And these kinds of topics that we cover, Patrick, it does exactly that because we don't have the answers, but the imagination can continue. It can go around the universe and come back, and we're still musing about it. And that's what's so exciting about this topic, this conversation, and the phenomenon as a whole.
Yeah, no, well said for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's what are some things that maybe that's one of them, but what are some things you've realized on your journey of just from a creator standpoint of presenting information to people, right? What are some things that you've learned along the way? Like something you would go back and tell your, you know, for your younger self, right? Hey, do this. I don't know.
I
Curious.
was terrified. I was petrified to go on camera and speak, just in general. I grew up
Okay.
with a
Yeah.
speech impediment. I had a stutter. I still do, but it's gotten a lot better due to these shows. And I never felt like I was good at expressing ideas and thoughts or being a storyteller. None of those things
Oh,
occurred to me. I didn't
really?
like it.
Wow.
I had to
You're
practice
natural.
to be a
Okay.
story.
Well, it's
It's
worked. You're great at it. Yeah.
And so I think I would tell myself and other people that you are going to mess up. There's nothing you can do about it. But one piece of advice that has
Yeah.
always stuck with me, that's actually given to me by Jimmy Church, is your next show is always going to be better than your last show. Always. Almost always. There are some exceptions, okay, to that rule. But for the most
Sure.
part, he's right. And that's really just has hit me hard that even though I might have messed up in my last show, maybe I made a one error or two errors, right? I know for the next one, it'll be good. People are going to pull you apart no matter what, pre recorded, live. If you have all your information down or not, you can't please everyone. Nobody's a golden coin. But if you are true to yourself and you are enjoying the topic and you're trying your best to provide real good information, go for it. And if you're not a good storyteller or if you have a speech impediment, practice really does make better. Not perfect, but a lot better. It does.
That's awesome. No, that's great. Well, I'm glad you overcame that and are providing the service you provide to the community, which is crazy, right? To think about that. I'm sure people who just heard that from you are like, what? That's, just the same reaction I had. Wow, you seem so natural at it. Right. Yeah. That's how you get to where you're at. You got to practice. You got to stick with it. It's not like when you started your channel, you had the audience you have now, right? Like, of course not.
Oh my
You
gosh, yeah.
gotta, yeah, you gotta stick at it. You gotta work, and stick with it. And, yeah, not to give up and definitely not worry about how people are going to receive you because you can't control it, nor should you try to control what people think of you or how they look at you or whatever, right? Which just means, in my opinion, just do your thing, right? Like if you, whatever you think you sound like or whatever you think you look like or whatever, just go for it. Like you said, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn along the way. Dough isn't needed when you mix flour and water together, right away. It's not this magical that you got to roll it out. I make food references all the time because I'm an ex-chef, right? So you got to roll it out. It is a lot to it, right? Then you get the dough. It's not immediately needed. It takes work. Anything good and worthwhile will take work. And I think also the time you get what you put into it. That's what I've learned from any business that I've had and any project that I've ever had, creatively. It's just you get what you put into it, right? So, and clearly, I think a lot of people can tell you've put a lot of work into the show you do, not just the production, the research, all of it. Honestly, I'm jealous a lot. You of a lot of the work that you do. I think it's good for creators to see people like yourself. It's like, oh, I need to up my game. I got to do. I got to do more stuff. I think that's a good level to have. I apologize if you can hear my dogs barking, but that's part of the show too. The dogs. Anyway, yeah, I think that's great that that you're able to offer that service. What are some things you wish you were doing on the show that you're not? And that's a lot, right? Like, you're already doing a lot, so clearly you've got some wish list stuff. I mean, I do. I always do creatively, right? No matter what you're doing, you're like, yeah, but I wish I was doing this and this too, or no, I don't know, maybe
Well,
not.
definitely boots on the ground investigations, but that won't
Yeah,
happen like at the RV.
sure.
So like that's an obvious one. Aside
Yeah.
from that, everything that I want to do, I'm already doing. Like I also have a music channel
Wow.
called Cosmic Pores, making space ambient music, and I have a fact channel called
Wait, what?
Factsophical, sharing
What
crazy
the
facts
hell?
that I love because I grew up with wanting to know all crazy facts to impress my
Wow.
friends and to make more friends. And I was that nerd in the library reading books, being like, "Hey, did you know that it takes 90 minutes to boil an ostrich egg?" Like, who's gonna need that?
I
Not
like
me,
how you're
but
like,
it's there.
this will get me friends if I learn facts. This will get me friends. Kids, we're so funny as kid. No, that's great. Wait, did you have more time in your day than me? I only get 24 hours because this sounds like you're doing a lot.
I have
Wow.
insomnia,
Okay.
so it's a lot of
Wow.
hours.
Okay. Hey, fair enough. Yeah, see, I need more sleep now at my age than I did when I was your age. Right. Like, let's be real. I could go days without sleeping back in the day. Go out with my friends, show up to work the next day, like, let's go. What's going on? No problem. Now, are you kidding me? If I have one beer, I'm out for a week. That is no joke. I'm literally out for a week, and somehow my knees hurt. I don't know. I don't even know. Just from drinking a beer, my knees hurt. Um, Weird things happen when you get older. You can't explain it because your mind still has this youthful, like, go get 'em attitude, but then your body's like, nah, that's not happening. You trying to jump over that fence right now to impress people? That's not happening. Okay,
I can't even do that now.
you're gonna break your neck. Um, oh, you better grab that rail going down the stairs. Don't act like you're better than that, Patrick, because you're not. Grab the rail, support yourself going down. Everyone can see you wincing with every step. Just do it. No, I'm kidding. It's not that bad, but it changes, and that's fascinating to me. I love seeing your youthful energy and passion for this, and just the topic needs more of it. I like supporting it. Being new to this community, I encountered a lot of things I was not expecting. Let's just put it that way.
I
And
know.
I'm happy to see people like yourself, being someone that people look up to, and being someone that people want to listen to and hear from. And we just need more of that, man. And so, yeah, I'm stoked that you're out there and that you're doing the show and doing the interviews you do. um that's a good question. What you have any fun interviews coming up, or fun interviews you did recently that you like that people should check out? Or I don't know.
Yeah, the latest one I did was with the Skinwalker Ranch panel. It's really cool to see them come off the screen and kind of share their experiences a little bit better. And so it's really
Ah,
fun. It's really enjoyable to speak with like Brandon Fugel, Thomas Winterton, Caleb Bench, and Brian
how cool
Arnold.
is that?
It's really cool to hear what they're not able to say on TV, because there's a lot of this, there's a ridicule factor of, oh, the television show is fake because they didn't show this, they aren't testing their experiments more than once. And the thing is that
Yeah.
you only have 45 minutes of a week worth of research. I know this because I've spoken to them on multiple accounts on that very question. I've asked them all that, like, why aren't we seeing more? They don't have control of it. They can just do their experiments and then it just gets documented. And yes, there is that hype. Yes, there is that entertainment, because again, they're not fully in control. And yes, it is a TV show, but they are doing scientific investigations on it. And what's really cool about Skinwalker Ranch is that it is the only place in the world right now where it's getting funding, public research, and an interest internationally on a place where you have this convergence between the UFO phenomenon and the paranormal. Now, there are places around the world very similar, like the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts, Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona. You have some in Romania, the Hoya Baciu Forest, and there's a few others, but they're
Oh,
escaping me
wow.
at this time. But it's Skinwalker Ranch that is getting that attention that I think it deserves. But the question is, why are certain locations having this heightened level of paranormal and UFO activity? Is it a little tear in the veil? Is it because of some kinds of experiments? The questions are endless here, but it displays to the world that the earth, is very mysterious. We do not understand everything. We hardly understand anything. And when we bring in the mysterious and the strange, oh my gosh, it's another layer on the cake that we're making. It's crazy.
Yeah, this is a 12-layer cake, y'all. We're getting nuts. We can't balance it. Yeah. I mean, wow, that's cool. To have them on and talk. Absolutely right. You're gonna get way more context, nuanced answers, things that they can't talk about on the show, or they did talk about, but it got cut or whatever, or it's just B-roll
Right.
or whatever, right? Sort of like the trailer talk, right? What they're talking about in the trailers, not well, I don't know if they stay in trailers, but it's sort of
They
a
do.
term in oh, okay.
Some of
Um,
them do. Yeah.
yeah, like water cooler talk, right? Like at work, like, okay, let's get some of those conversation. What really happened with this instance or that now? How cool is that? And of course, it's a great show. Those guys do interesting work, and Brandon Fugel is quite fascinating character, to be honest with you. What he's doing with that ranch, and I agree. Is that ranch like and other places like it, you know, why is it that like why that place and what's going on? Is there something more? It makes sense that you know quote unquote hot spots could exist, right? Places that are more attractive to a phenomena or the phenomena or whatever we're calling it. um yeah, that's fascinating. That is, have you ever been to Skinwalker Ranch?
Not until I get the RV. So,
But you would go though.
yeah,
You'd go
without a
visit.
doubt. No
You don't
hesitation.
worry about any sort of hitchhiker. Somebody was asking me that, like, "Oh, Patrick, would you go to Skinwalker Ranch?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "What about the hitchhiker effect?" I was like, "You know what? Wait a second. Let me, let me. You're right. I don't. Now I got to think about it." So I don't know. It kind of gave me pause to think about. That doesn't worry you in any way.
No, it doesn't. It not at all. Well, now what's interesting, actually, talking about the hitchhiker effect, is that people are part of the Insider Project, which is people that are given access to the cameras on Skinwalker Ranch 24/7, able to interact with the team better. Yes, you have to pay for it, but I think it's like $7 a month or something. Anyways, thousands of
Oh,
people are a part of the membership, and there's a log that everyone has access to. I don't know if they still do because it's kind of changed, but the point
yeah,
being is there's been a handful of people that have been watching the cameras and have encountered the hitchhiker effect. So even though they're not on the ranch, and this, I'm telling you, it's a legitimate phenomenon.
wow,
Team members have mentioned it several times with me on camera. Caleb Bench
sure,
has mentioned it. Brandon Fugel has mentioned it.
yeah,
Thomas Winterton has also mentioned it. And again, on camera. But they had meant what they're stating here is that some people that are watching these cameras or having them on their computer while they're doing their mundane things, they are encountering glitches, they are encountering light bulbs, doing strange things, maybe even shattering, having strange kinds of entities in their homes. And so the list continues onward, and it's only people that have either been on the ranch or a part of the Insider Project. Take it or leave it. I'm not here to tell you if it's true or not, but
sure.
it is worth mentioning, and I think it's very interesting to hear that from people.
That's interesting that you know like, it's not a worry for you about this. You do believe in it, but that it's not a worry for you. Like, what about like CE5? Like trying to that's what I've been because at first I was gung ho to like, yeah, I want to try it. Let me give this a try. And then I was like, wait a second. I don't want to try to contact entities or beings that I don't know who or what they are, what they could do to me. Like, I don't see why should I make that invitation? And I kind of feel that same way about the hitchhike. Like, I don't know all the things that could or could not happen to me. I don't know. That doesn't worry you? Like, I don't know. Am I overthinking it? What do you think?
CE5, I think, is a different category. And it's something that I have very mixed feelings about. I mean, I'm pulled both ways. I do want to state that CE5 is nothing new. It's been practiced for hundreds of years in India, and then it kind of got brought here to the United States. But
Sure.
it's tough because I want to share both angles to this. You have one angle of seeing it's like prayer, like, hey, it's like talking to, for Catholics, your guardian angel. Hey, if you want to come down, if you want to help me, great. Cool. I'm
Sure.
for it. Then you have this other part of me. It's like playing with the Ouija board. You have no idea what
Yeah.
you're encountering, who you're bringing in just to hang out and have a good time. And then I have
That's what I'm saying.
this middle one as well where I'm thinking, who are we? Like, are we that egotistical to say, hey, come on down because I feel like you should? Like, why do they have to listen to us? And so all of
Yeah.
these different parts of me, it tears me apart of I don't really know how I feel about it. I've never practiced it. I've never done it before, at
Okay,
least
that's
not yet.
interesting. Yeah.
But
But you're
that's me.
open
Those are
to
like
it.
all of my thoughts in one go.
Okay. So at the moment, you're like, I get everything you just said. If I'm being honest, like I probably would agree to all that. Yeah, I mean, I think it could be my age. Again, if I was in my 20s, I guarantee you I would not have any of these questions. I would have already tried it. I would have already jumped it. Hell yeah, let's go. I'm trying to get on one of these UFOs. I would have literally probably had that thought like, yeah, let's try this, let's try that. I don't care about hitchhiker. I'll be fine. But as I'm older, I got a family, I got responsibilities, I don't know what's true and what's not right now, right? All the way. And I just don't want to play around. It's better safe than sorry sort of attitude. And I think for me, it has just come with age, if I'm being honest. I definitely see my youthful self just going all in. I wouldn't have thought about any of that repercussions of what could come of it. I mean, you just all these stories you hear. I don't know, but at the same time, if they really wanted to do something to me, I guess they would just anyway, right? Regardless. But like you said, why would they listen to me? Who am I that they're going to come down out of nowhere to interact with me? I don't know. I don't know. It's just a lot I hear. I mean, there's some people in my audience that think I've already had an experience, but I've repressed it. So they want me to get some sort of, you know, hypnotized or something to see if I'm hiding this, encounter that I'm like, from when? What? I don't have any missing time, like besides, some nights in New Orleans of drinking. That's a different kind of blackout. Yeah. um, that was 20 years ago. Yeah, that was a long time ago. So I don't know. I don't know. It's one thing is to research and present the information about this topic, and another thing is I'm going to try to interact with this phenomena. You know, do you see that being part of your journey on this RV? Right, like going around. Do you want to interact with the phenomena? Like, are you trying to have this visceral journey, or just like a war reporter, right? Like you're
All of
just
the
out
above.
there to okay, love
All
it.
of the above. I do. Let me bring this up because I think this is really interesting and it's stuck with me ever since. I spoke to a Japanese researcher, UFO researcher, and he mentioned to me that what if, and it's just merely a what if all these people that have had a UFO sighting or encounter, they were chosen, they were predestined to have them? Take it or leave it. For me, it's always just it's kind of stuck, and I'm thinking, dude, what, why, and what if? Are we in control of our destiny? Is there a fate? Why are some chosen versus others? And there's this
Sure.
whole battle, this whole debate going on inside of me and people when you present this information. But when I think of it like that, there are some people, for instance, that have researched the topic for years, for decades, and have never seen anything. Then you
Yeah.
have those that do not give an absolute crap about it, and they see some every once in a while, maybe every few days, who knows, right? And for me, again, take it or leave it, I just think it's worth considering.
I mean, 100%. I mean, that takes the pressure off, right? It's like, well, I'm either meant to see it or not. I don't need to worry about this.
And that kind of mentality, in reality, it's healthy. It's been practiced for thousands of years of just it will come when it comes, it'll happen when it happens.
Sure.
Great things come to those that wait. We
Yeah. Yeah.
hear these metaphors
Sure.
consistently for eons. And
Yeah.
when we think of it like that maybe we're not fully in control where we really want to be. But when it comes to the UFO phenomenon, you have almost no control whatsoever. All of the control you have is writing down a notebook on what you observed. And that's about it.
Yeah.
So I think, like you said, it does kind of take away a pressure in some respects, but in others, it makes you think, I am in control of my destiny. I am in control of my fate. Nothing can tell me otherwise.
Sure.
It's a toughie, I think.
I mean, truly, I mean, I've had that, discussion with friends over the years for a long time of whether or not you're in control or not. You'll never know. Is the real answer. You'll never know. It's impossible to know if you're in control or not. Which is kind of cool in a way. It's like, okay, well then I don't need to worry about that. I can just do the things I'm doing. I don't know if it's I decided to do this or not, or it's a mix, or does it matter? I think that's something I think about a lot too. Anything that gets brought up, whatever, is that this guy comes out with a claim of I saw UFO and this happened to me, and I'm a whistleblower now, and then immediately the discussion is he truthful or not? Is he
Yeah.
lying? Is he telling the truth? Right. That's it. We got a line in the sand. I need to know right now, which one is it? And I often ask, does it matter? Is that where we need to go first? I don't know. It's like there's a lot of these things. Doesn't matter if we're in control of our destiny or not. Is one more beneficial or not? Is one, lead you to a happier life or not? I mean, what do you want out of life? Like maybe it's so unique. It's so different for everybody. And, you know, like you said at the beginning, and I agree with, it's just all these different perspectives. So yeah, a lot of it, I think it just doesn't matter. That's what I've learned as I get older. Just a lot of these things don't matter one way or the other. You don't have to take a definitive stance. It's not all black and white. You can live in the gray. Saying you don't know is okay. Um, and there's just nothing wrong with that. Um, to be honest, I don't, right. I just don't see, but we're often
Pressured.
pressured is a great word. We're pressured into taking a stance, taking a side, making a definitive, um, you know, having a definitive take on whatever the thing may be. And especially in this, whatever comes up, right? A case, a person, a whistleblower, a decision, now we got to decide that now. And the reason I bring it up is because all the energy goes towards that. Right. So everything that is presented or information whatever, is all with the goal in mind of making a decision at the end of it. Right. And I don't know, maybe that's not the right approach. Don't have to necessarily make a decision because it would change the journey. Right. If you change the finish line, it changes the race. So you gave me a lot to think about, to be honest with you. This has been really cool. So I don't know.
Well, and also when you wait to receive an answer or to give an answer, more data, more information has come forward. So being on the fence, being in that
Yeah,
gray area, people think
great
it's a
point.
cop out, but in reality, it is the best place to be because information will always be coming out. Some will contradict each other, and it's better just to be open-minded, to throw your bias in the trash and just to observe what is going on. Only then will you receive the right answer. There's
Yeah,
a bunch of answers, but they're not all right. No.
sure.
Some are in an instance. Like you had said that people are pressured to give an answer in that moment. But it's okay, like you said, to say, I don't know. It's good.
Absolutely.
It's healthy.
100%.
Practice it.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, at the end of the day, it's what is I find most healthy to keep a stable mental state about this topic or life or whatever you have to go through. is learning that the discussion about the things is the thing, right? The saying, to make it easier, it's not the destination, it's the journey. That's what makes life exciting. Life is exciting because you live life, not the moment you die. That's not the exciting part. It's everything, all the years that came before that and everything you did, right? It's the journey. It's not the destination. And in this case, I would put the answer as being the destination. It's about the discussion you have along the way to get to that answer is what's most important. So which is why I'm on and I've always been, it's about learning to respectfully disagree with people, not agree with people or convince people of your position or what's going, like, what does that matter? Right. It's the discussion, and it's having those discussion, and that's where you learn things. You don't learn from speaking, you learn from listening, right? So hearing out other people is super important. And yeah, I love that, right? Like we can be on the fence. I totally agree with all that. I mean, that's it's okay to be there and not have a definitive stance and just take in more new information, like you said.
That's why we have
It's
2 ears and
Yeah.
1 mouth for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes, although my wife would argue neither of my ears work because I don't hear a lot, which is true. She's right. But I always blame my old band. When I was in a band, you're in these rehearsal spaces and you got amps aimed right at your ear, and I promise you, you will lose hearing. So for those you youngins out there, plug up the ears. Because again, you're young, you're just like, oh, I'll be fine. I guess you will to an extent, but it's okay to have precautions. Take some precautions, right, along the way. Cristina, what didn't we cover today that you wanted to bring up? Is there anything you're like, oh, I really was hoping we talk about that, or that? I don't know. I feel like we covered a lot today.
I think we covered a lot of information. It's a lot for people to digest, and I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, we did. When this comes out, I will have already been on your show. Okay, because this is going to come out tomorrow. So hopefully I said some cool stuff. But I can't guarantee that. So this is my I don't know. This is like a bet you make after the thing. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, hopefully I did a good job. So make sure and check that out on Christina's channel. And again, subscribe to her channel, please. Is there any other places I'm not mentioning, like a website? You mentioned all your other shows before, but how do you want people to connect with you that may not know about you?
Best place to find me is obviously on my YouTube channel under Cristina Gomez, but also on my website at strangeparadigms.com. There you can find anything and everything you need. And I also write articles for all of my shows. So if you are more of a reader than
What the
watching
hell?
videos, I hear you. I'm looking at you. And you can find those articles right on my website.
I'm like, where do you get the time, girl? Oh my, that's what you need to teach people. You need a new channel called This is How You Can Manage Your Time Properly, because wow, you do a great job of that. That's great. Wow, I'm jealous. To be honest with you, I need to learn to do that better. Yeah, you got a lot going on. What's anything? Oh, you said you're doing everything. So you have nothing new, like some project that's about to, I don't know, blow up the internet. I don't know. What do the kids say? Is that what they say? Blow up the internet? Is that a word?
I
Is that a
think
term?
I think it's still a thing.
Is
I don't
that
know.
a
I feel like I'm out of the loop with some of the lingo, and then when I use
come on.
it just comes out wrong sometimes. Like no cap, I'm just
You're
like
an
it's
old
just
soul.
I
Yeah, no
cringe.
cap. I still don't know what that means.
Oh, it means
So
no, actually I don't really remember what it means. I think it means like fake or real. It's one or the other. Gosh,
that's what I know.
I
I
just
knew
threw
that. I know
myself under
it's
a bus.
you totally did. See, you used it and I called you out. It is what you said. It's either true or not true, but I don't know if cap is true or not true. Like if you say no cap, does that mean
I think it
they're
means
lying?
true. No, I think it means true. Like, oh, it's good, no cap. Yeah.
No lying or no fakery, no fugazi,
Oh
right? No
no.
mentira.
It's gonna be on now. I feel
Oh gosh. Are you kidding me? This is how I'm going to start the show. This is what I'm going to show at the very beginning. right here, this part, and probably repeat it with slow-mo, make sure everyone did, and then say, "Did you catch that? Let's play that again." I'm just kidding. Jeez. No, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. And yes, please make sure everyone checks you out. And yeah, thank you for coming on, Betty. I hope we get to do this again. To be honest with you, this was a lot. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Patrick.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.